Yes, a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Straight Talk with PAP. My name is Charlene, and pleased to be your host for this evening. Now, tonight in this episode, we're going to talk to you about a topic that's really close to the hearts of many: education. And of course, with us on set, we have the Minister of Education, Mr. Ong Ye Kung.
How are you? How's everybody? Hello.
And we also have Denise, Phua, our candidate, here with us.
Hi.
And we have our yet another candidate from PAP. We have Rizal.
Hello.
You know, for all the netizens who are watching us live on Facebook page, I know it's really hard for you to interact with us, but we love to have all your comments. So do remember to drop all your comments right below. And also, if you agree with whatever we're going to share with you, please show us generously all your hearts and all your thumbs up and all your love. That's the way to, interact with us, okay? So right now, I just want to have something that's lighthearted first, because
the whole thing should be lighthearted.
Yes, it should be lighthearted.
So you should
At the
relax.
end of the whole entire day, I know a lot of people have just finished their work. They have tuned in right after their dinner. And likewise for all of you, I'm sure that you did not start your day just right now only. So maybe I'll start with Minister Ong.
Sure.
Can you tell me, what are you up to? Because I saw from the videos that you've been canvassing for votes. You've been running around from corridors to corridors and staircase to staircase. That's one thing. And also been busy for one of the video that we saw. You are playing the guitar, and that has stolen the hearts of many as well. So yes, so you have been doing a lot of things lately. So what have you been doing today?
Okay, the running around, the blocks, I have two new candidates in my slate this year in Sembawang GRC. Vote for Sembawang GRC.
Yes.
And I realized during this morning, when I compared the number of blocks I've walked versus theirs and versus Dr. Lim Wee Kiat, who's a really good avid runner, I'm actually very slow.
How's the numbers?
They are doing twice the number of blocks as I have done. Yeah, so they really
They
running.
speed run.
They
You
must
jog.
be. Right. I may have been taking my time. As for the guitar playing, that's my stunt double. Yeah,
That's not you, huh?
that's my stunt double. Yeah.
But we've seen how busy you were on some of the Getai shows. I was superbly impressed with you, because not only you can sing, and you speak Mandarin, English, and Hokkien as well. And tonight's session, right, it's via Facebook page. We can speak a bit of dialect as well if you want to. Okay,
Okay,
just-
Rizal, you're
Hokkien.
on. You speak
係
dialect,
係
huh? Okay.
很好。
好不好？
其實
好好，
我使講Hokkien。
講福建你聽冇嘅，
哦，真強誒！
真強要講福建。
會使啊？
會使
喺邊只一樣？啊，
Tak boleh cakap Hokkien, bahasa Hokkien.
tak boleh.
Tak boleh.
Chinese
lah.
Mandarin,
Tak boleh.
Mandarin.
一点点啦吼。
一点点. Okay, so maybe over to Denise as well. You've been singing on the Facebook page. for
Singing? Was I?
for
Oh, the people.
Jalan
No, actually, I was
Yeah.
just accompanying my
Yeah.
residents. If I really sing, I think I'll lose votes instead of gaining votes.
Okay, we'll not try to.
Anyway, tonight, since you talk about Sembawang, I'd like to say we are from Jalan Besar. Resident Jalan Besar, candidate Jalan Besar, candidate Jalan Besar. Okay, and if he wins, he will be her MP.
Not sure.
He will be her MP. Okay, so it's Jalan
okay.
Besar
I'm
versus
outnumbered.
Sembawang. Okay,
This
thank
is
you.
the MOE guy.
And actually, I was a GPC chair.
Yes.
Until recently, when Parliament dissolved.
Yeah, we're all not MPs.
We're not MPs
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah. So
But I
still
always know
fascinating.
Denise as the GPC chair. She's still my GPC chair.
I gave him a hard time.
She does. So whatever changes we are making in MOE, to her is never good enough. She's always one bound ahead.
Hello, don't say like that lah.
But that's what keeps us on our toes.
That's true. That's true.
But I think things have improved a lot. I mean, over the time,
Thank
15
you.
years now. Yeah,
Wow.
So I must say most of the MOE ministers quite gracious. They take a lot of my nonsense, and really very gracious. So I really salute and thank you so much. Okay. So I hope you continue to be MOE minister plus other ministers. Maybe you get promoted. Who knows? Okay. So
One portfolio.
Okay. Yeah, but they've
Okay.
all been very gracious. I think
Yeah.
we banter a lot. In fact, we debate and argue a lot behind
In the members'
GPC,
room.
yeah, in the GPC actually.
Behind
yeah,
the scene that nobody
yeah,
knows.
and they're very kind to me because I'm Pisces lah. Okay.
No lah, don't say that.
She's very passionate.
Yeah, she's very passionate, and also from her character, she's a very, very jovial person. So it's very easy to work with Denise as well. I'm glad that I'm the right GRC. Okay, then right over to Rizal. Yes.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? I just got to know that you're part of the
Jalan Besar. And you are my resident,
Yes. So, of course, your day did not start like this. We had some makeup on you, so you look really refreshed. But otherwise, you were saying that you feel a little tired. Tell me, how's your day?
So I usually take a quick video after my visits, and every time I take a video and I run it live, people will comment, "Hey, you look so tired. Maybe you should drink up, have more rest. You really look really bad, especially the ones I do at night, because they can see the eye bags all popping out and all that." So I said, I will try. I think it has not happened.
Just put makeup lah.
So I think it's been an interesting campaign so far. I'm also trying to run, so I think I just uploaded a running video, trying to to show that
catch up.
You run from door to door as well.
I think we have to do that because I think we want to engage as many residents as possible.
Yes.
I think this is one good way to outreach to them.
Rizal is a sports science expert, his
Really?
PhD and all that. So it's and he's an expert in this.
But not running.
Not running, but
running.
exercise, sports lah.
Hopefully,
Canvassing for votes, running in a way, yes. So we catch up with our ministers as well as our candidates on what they have been doing the whole entire day. But of course, that brings us to our very topic tonight, which is we all know that the COVID-19 pandemic has really wreaked havoc elsewhere, but also it has certainly put e-learning on the fast track. And having said this, a lot of schools and also the Ministry of Education has since seized the opportunities in these very difficult times. So we'd like to catch up with all our candidates here tonight and also Min Ong about the imperatives for education. So maybe Min Ong, you can kickstart and kick off tonight's session by sharing us. I know there are a lot of imperatives,
where do we start?
but where do we start?
Okay, maybe if I just simplify it. Essentially, we know it is a mantra that the world is changing so fast. Everything we do is changing so fast. There's no such thing as one fixed career anymore. You find yourself having to refresh yourself over and over again. And that's the world we live in. And so, why do we reform the education system for the past few years? Why has Denise been pushing us so hard? So one simple reason. We need to prepare our children for a very different future, different from the ones we went through. And so that requires us to really rethink our education system. It's been very well regarded by around the world, but it would be a great mistake for us to think just because the world say our system is good, therefore don't need to change. I think in fact we had a good system because we changed over the years. And so what are the key points? And I would say, number one, we have to admit we have been placing too much emphasis on academic results.
On the results, yes.
It is important. I should never say it's not important. It is important that discipline, sometimes even some repetitive practice, and that's still important. But you cannot overemphasize it until it's a be-all and end-all. That's not the purpose of education. That's why all the steps, we try to change the PSLE scoring system. We reduce examinations almost by half. Many secondary school students don't like it. They prefer the exams. They do. Next time you catch hold of a secondary school student and ask them.
Why is that so?
Okay, if I imagine I'm in secondary school now, I would have said the same. Because I'm a daydreamer. In class, I'm not listening. I doze off, I doodle. But what's my saving grace? When it comes to exam, I mark. I do the exam, I'm okay. I tell myself, actually, I'm okay. But without the exam, I can't. Instead, I have small tests, I have small assessment that I constantly have to tell myself I'm keeping up. So you actually have to pay attention now. So to me, as a secondary school student, that will be very uncomfortable.
That's true.
Yeah,
so you'd rather have exams?
I would probably be the type, but I think it's a bad learning habit. Because if you need to keep upgrade your skills throughout your life, you cannot afford to be like that. You must have a genuine curiosity that I want to learn. I'm doing this not because I want to ace the exam. I'm doing this because I want to learn. It's interesting. I find joy in it. So that's the key. That's the key part of our reform. That's what we're trying to achieve. So in line with that too, when you start thinking about streaming of secondary school students, that was an important policy. It worked so well for 40 years. It reduced dropout by such a big deal. We used to have 30% dropout of students. We were down to almost zero now. Because we streamed, students could now keep up at least. But the downside, again, you can lose interest. After a while, there's a label, there's a stigma. and there is a loss of that growth mindset. Yeah. And so instead of customizing education is still needed, but instead of customizing it by the course that you are one stream, you are next stream, NANT, we say how about customizing it by the class, by the subject. Yeah, then you remove the stigma. In fact, you are customizing even more, but yet you remove the stigma, right? And so we are moving towards phasing out of the streaming, and then instead replacing it with subject-based banding.
So it's a new paradigm shift for learning.
Yeah.
Because we really want all the students to be creative, to be innovative, but and also to think out of the box most of the time. I think our generation, our education, you're right, we always like have to mark on the thank you. We also have to mark on the
well, you
the
use some
subjects.
fairly ambitious words like innovative, creative, out of the box. Those are very good attributes, but maybe our ambition is slightly a bit more modest. We just want students to be curious, and we want them to love to learn and feel that there's something in this world that I'm good at. Not necessarily acing the exam, but something I'm good at, and the system will help me discover it, and then there's a lifelong learning process that support me to develop it in that direction.
That's good.
Yeah.
Talking about lifelong learning, that also brings me to Denise, what you're good at about the skills future, lifelong learning, and maybe you can also share with us how we could possibly further our education in that matter, in that sense.
In fact, I think in one of my last few parliamentary speeches, I wanted a name change for Ministry of Education. I wanted it to be called Ministry for Lifelong Learning. But of course, every time I say something, they all ignore me first. Then I'll push and push and push until a few years, then somebody will do
Acknowledge
something.
you.
Just like Skills Future. I really wanted, I know I brought it up, and of course we MPs claim all the time that it's our idea, but never mind, I claim this one. Okay? I really wanted the education for adults to come under MOE. And I think the first time I mentioned it in Parliament, it was like silence, radio silence, like what?
When was it? When was it?
Before your term, never mind. Yeah.
But when was it? Which
How
year?
long was it?
2-3年前吧.
I believed in that since 2005.
Okay, you take on. Then you see, I think all clean ideas one. Okay. Anyway, but that was formally when I brought it up. So I think it was radio silence, and I was so pleased when I think it was Ye Kung's time, right?
Yeah.
Skills Future was roped under Ministry of Education. So that was really fantastic because, you know, education to me, I mean, it's about curiosity, of course, but it's also about really lifelong learning. Sounds such a cliche, but basically, if you really want to learn and you look at technology, disruption, all that, the shelf life of product, shelf life of knowledge is so short. We have to continue to learn. So learning, no choice, has to be lifelong. Learning has to be self-driven. Learning cannot be always, you only learn when you have exams or a school teacher in front of you or whatever, you know. So I think that's really the new paradigm of learning, because the shelf life of knowledge is just so short, you know. And I remember I heard one, I read one HR report, a corporate report, and it actually says that because things change so fast, nobody can really be so smart and have everything, you know, and know everything. So the basic, most important attribute of a good person or a good employee, a good leader, is what they call learning agility. Learning agility. So you need to be very agile in learning, so very quick in learning. And so I think that's what MOE is also trying to do. You always also try to be exposed, get involved in new things so that you don't get frightened whenever you are faced with new things. And you have no choice. Even people who are very smart in IT, you know, their knowledge can also be obsolete. You know, the coders can be replaced by AI, artificial intelligence, and all. So there's quite a lot of that. So I really think the MOE is going the right direction. It's really tough, because I remember one joke about when I first became GPC chair or joined the GPC. They say that everybody in Singapore think they are the Minister of Education. They sure have something to contribute to.
Except me. Except me.
Except the Minister of Education. So I think, but truly, I really think that learning is different. And while there are lots of reforms, you know, and I think they are really very good and going the right direction, I think there's more to be done. And that's what makes it so exciting. So we're always ahead of game in the world. And so that's something I think I'll still join the GPC education if I get elected.
Now I'm excited to join her.
Maybe you should become a Jalan Besar team too.
Okay. Yeah,
So,
but you brought
so
up
what Denise said about putting lifelong learning under MOE, this is something I always believed in. I didn't know you were championing it. In fact, that was...
She has to claim the credit
Yeah,
now.
but that was...
Just give her.
she should have the credit.
Yes.
But that was the first thing I did as Education Minister in 2015.
So Skills Future was one of the most strategic things that happened, I think, during the last few years. I think Ye Kung and Chee Meng were under their watch. The other thing that I was thought was very powerful was what Minister has just mentioned, that you finally got rid of streaming, you know, in secondary school. And I know it was a big decision because it was, you know, one of the sacred cows, how can, no? And when I brought up together with Dr. Intan, also we were both in the GPC, everybody said, how can, no? Then it's like, so we felt it was a sacred cow. So when Minister Ye Kung came along, he did it and I was so happy. So that was the only time I think I didn't criticize MOE, I really praised in my speeches. So that was really good. Because if you remember, who is that? Jack Neo, Liang Zhiqiang.
Yeah.
He has this show that's called Xiao Hai Pupen. I'm not stupid.
I'm not stupid.
You know the EM3?
That was
EM2,
a primary
It's very
school
stressful
yeah,
period.
and they got rid of that. So I always felt, why not? Why must it be? You know, why can't it be gotten rid of in the secondary?
There is a
and
precedent.
the stigma was really bad for our kids. You know, you're anti or whatever. But hey, but you must hear his story later. This is a anti
Our
guy.
era
But so what?
story.
Anti, right? I mean, my child is from a special school. You know, and I'm mighty proud of him. He's from a special education school, so that's fine. So I really, really like those two moves. Skills Future, putting into MOE, and the other one is getting rid of streaming at the secondary school level.
Yes,
both under
I
your
think you
watch.
brought up very salient points about education. And also, one more thing that we want to find out from Rizal as well, your story, because it's a story of our era, where education, we have all the streamings, the stressful time about P4 and P5. I couldn't really remember the which level do we have streaming already? Kind of forgot.
we had it
P3.
P3.
Then you're streaming at EM 1, 2, 3.
Correct. It was
Yes.
at P3. But mine was even before EM 1, 2, 3. So it was, okay, I may sound a bit old here, but it's
Hello,
really
you're
before.
very young, huh?
Yeah, but I think I was not affected by EM1, EM2, EM3 because it was really before that time. But there was still some streaming involved. So if you're the better ones, of course, get into the better classes. But there is already that stigma happening even in primary school. But for me, I think it matters most when you are in secondary school, right? Because that's when you really have the express and normal stream. So the good thing, I guess, for me, there was no normal technical and normal academic. So if you're normal, you're just normal, you know. But then again, normal in that case, because there's only two, it's either good or bad, right? That's what people may have in their heads. So it's either you're good, express, or you're bad as a normal student. So I think there's a good thing that they actually split it up in a way. But then again, there is that stigma going on. So preferably, we want to go away with it. And I think it's a good move by MOE to actually remove it altogether. For me personally, going through the normal stream, I thought it was okay. I think the pace was fine, to be honest. But the stigma, I think that matters because that lingers in everybody's head. Am I just normal? Can I go further than that? And back then, it was very difficult for us to think further. I think for a normal stream, I think my parents were so afraid that I would just fail my N-levels and that's it. Life ends there, you know. But things have changed much. If, let's say, N-level was the end back then, now it's not because it moves you to the next level. You are not stuck there anymore. I think this is the importance of our education system. We have multiple pathways to achieve success. Just to give you the biggest learning point I have as an educator, I see those students that actually come from the ITE, because I teach in a poly right now, are actually better off than those who come direct from O-levels. I think they have...
grounding is better.
Yes, they have that foundation. I think they're more mature, you know, when they come into poly. Sure, they are maybe 1 or 2 years older, but they come in with that determination that I like to see in my students. And I'm not saying the O-level students are bad, you know, I'm saying that I see something different from these ITE graduates when they go into poly. Yeah.
What is your view on how ITE graduates should progress?
I think the current progression is that
higher
the NITEC system,
and some go to
higher
diploma,
NITEC.
some work.
Again, there's a lot of segregation in between, and at the end of the day, not everybody gets to go to the poly. You know, so my question here is: are we able to actually remove more of this segregation and allow a better pathway, a smoother pathway for them to actually get into?
Rightfully, ITE should be like a basic vocational certification. That you can perform a certain technical job very well. yeah, using your hands, applied learning, hand, heart, you know,
Yeah.
mind. And then the next stage, which need not be immediately after you graduate from ITE, you should work first.
Yes.
And after the next stage, you achieve certain mastery level, or a higher certification level. And then later you achieve some mastery level, which by then you should be diploma plus, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think our educational mindset has been study, 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 then finish.
Correct.
Then work,
Then
work, 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 retire, withdraw
Mm.
CPF after that. So I think we need to change the mindset into really we learn, we work, we learn, we work. And actually that suits an IT graduate more.
Yeah.
You come on to work and then at some point you upgrade again. And that's how the vocational system works as well in Europe and many places.
Agreed. I think
Yeah.
skills is a very important factor that we must always consider, because these are the things, to me, skills is, it's not like education. No? Skills is actually some
You have to do.
some expertise.
You need experience.
Yeah, that
You need
is actually
experience.
quite future proof.
Yes. Yes.
So if you really have the expertise, you are more or less confirmed of a certain job.
Yeah.
Of course, not all jobs are confirmed, but
Yeah.
I think it gives you that edge.
Like the Germans say, to have skills is what they call a golden floor. No matter how bad the economy is, you have this golden floor. Yeah, you are
Interesting.
assured.
It's a foundation.
Yes, you are assured of some basic way of earning a living.
Yes, and also to touch on your point, I think a lot of times many people would be, overly our era will be overly emphasizing on the grades itself. So much so that education is supposed to be a fun way to learn and to acquire new skills and knowledge. But to us, it was all about grades during our times, especially like. I'm not sure whether I can say this, but during JC,
Okay.
if you don't perform really well for certain subjects, the teachers will always say that, the lecturers will always say that, if you guys cannot do well in certain subject, you better drop the subject because otherwise you'll pull the whole ranking of the school down. But this is gone. This is gone. Yeah, it's no longer repeated, which is heartening to see that in education these days. Yeah.
Well, it's a big system, and I would say sometimes old habits die hard. I wouldn't be surprised. Some teachers may still speak like that. It's possible. Many parents may still speak like that. And I think we have to respect those views because these different people have different ideas about education too. But what is clear is we are moving in a certain direction. It may take time for the entire mindset to change, but we have to just keep repeating our messages. Huh?
Yep. I think we need to do some more work, and that's when I hope that when we become MPs, hopefully, in the next round, there's one very important initiative that we can take, because the academic qualification, that paper, it's there because it seems to be the only proxy, for assessing whether one is able to learn or is competent, able to do work. So we don't want that proxy. Then you can't just remove it. You must then say what can replace it.
Yep.
So I always think about. For example, I work with a lot of marketing people or advertising people, and their creative energy, their creative work is the test. And it doesn't matter. One of the best creative directors I work with, he was from Polytechnic, and that's fine. He refused to go to university, okay? And but he produces some of the, to me, world-class work. With me, for me, and I just think, and he doesn't want to go to university, so that's fine. So, but his portfolio, of his abilities, of his clients' work with him, his school work, really spoke for him, and that's one way of, another way of gauging one's competence, for example, or an editor, a writer, a copywriter, for example. You don't really care whether you have a degree in English or whatever language, whatever, but you see the quality of their editorial, their writing, and that, hey, this guy can do it. So I think and we probably have to help a lot of employers and parents as well, and teachers, educators, to see things, to go a bit deeper in terms of, actually, when you say someone is good, why do you say that, and what are the ways by which they can be assessed? I think MOE is already starting to do that. They call it they have this assessment portfolio. So you have different types of ways, to actually assess whether somebody is good in this subject or not. And I think we have to do that for work, for the employers as well, because it always 羊毛出在羊身上. They work backwards. If they don't have a way of assessing whether I should promote you, I should hire you or not, then the paper the academic qualification is always the only proxy, and that's so silly. That cannot be, you know. So I really or the entertainment world, or like yourself, you know, you're such a good facilitator. But does it need to come with a degree or master's or PhD? You know, maybe not.
Wasted.
Okay, you speak for wasted. Yeah, you speak. You know, your competence, your ability, your poise, it's just your expertise. Just speak for yourself. So I think we need to do some work in that, and I'm so hopeful that that can be done.
So a big piece of the work, if I may, is actually employers, how they recognize.
Right.
I would say certification papers are still important.
Sure.
Because it's like to say that...
But it's not the only one.
Yes, but to say that paper is not important is like from now on we don't need money.
Of course not.
Because there is currency to skills, and you have to condense it into a certification, and people can look at it and say, you know all this, and this is on the basis of that, I hire you. And I think what we need to rely less on is academic paper. I think we need all different kinds of papers, you know? Papers on different kinds of skills, different kinds of attributes.
So just last week, I was talking to a young man. He's an SMU grad, okay? And he was doing some work because hard to get jobs because of COVID and all that. So he was doing a piece of work, putting an SME guys' product offerings on Lazada. You know, and the whole project, you know, was putting the whole thing on this platform, and then marketing it, and then getting some government grants to do, and that whole experience. So I was advising him, hey, this is really good experience. You really should put in your resume and show as your portfolio. So to me, and it doesn't matter that he came from SMU or whatever, but the fact that he did this project, he did this well, you know, and he was quite creative and entrepreneurial. I think that will stand him in good stead.
But now with things like LinkedIn and digital media and social media, there's actually many other ways for us to assess a person as opposed to just looking at your results and academic papers.
So we must share with employers, you know, that there's a way to do it, but we also need to share with job applicants, hey, you know, it's not just your paper only, you know, your portfolio, all this is very important.
I have a question, like the gentleman that you spoke about just now.
The young man.
So the young man, So he has this e-commerce skills, or it was something that was out of what he had? Like
he had IT skills, but it wasn't his main strength. But he had entrepreneurial skills, and he went to try. So it's just because you know how to code a program or whatever, doesn't mean you, or do data analytics only, doesn't mean you can actually put a SME offering into a platform, make it successful, get results, get KPI outcomes, sales and so forth, profit. You know. So I think that whole experience is more than just even his IT skill or subject.
But we are talking about our dreams and our vision. But when you actually administer the whole system and you have to work with employers, you really need to prod bit by bit and do it methodically, systematically, but surely, steadily. I think we are very tough to moderate. I think we listen to Charlene what she wants to discuss next.
Because I'm thinking deep into this topic, because education is such a big topic. Because like you mentioned, it is important for us to have at least a cert, which is definitely important in this society out there. But Denise made a point. If I am an employer right now, I would love to see, other than just paper qualifications of this employee, what other skills does he has, you know, that will be added to this portfolio. I would love somebody who has a wide experience. So maybe like what Min Ong had shared, you know, in the Europe countries, people work and they study and they work, they study. The experience they have would pretty much benefit them in their jobs that they would eventually be applying for. So I think this is something that we are not so attuned to, because we always have been like study, and then job.
Because one of your deepest learning, most intense learning experience is work itself. It is through work that you really learn a lot, and not just formal teaching.
So this is a good time where we can have the chance to consolidate ourselves, and also for those of us who are so hugely affected by this COVID-19, which essentially means that there could be no unemployment at all, to take the time to reskill and also to upskill, which is right now, I think a lot of my friends are taking courses at home. Wow, you see the IG story every day, having courses. I think they were telling me that they've been 2 weeks on the courses. So that helps them to, in a way, brush out their skills. So example, if they're in the events industry, they would take courses that has got to do with events management. How would they have something like a digital way to revolutionize the whole entire events industry? So these are courses which they can take, or even digital marketing, like you mentioned. So these are skills whereby we, during this period of time, we could take, because in the event that, you know, the usual events industry where we're not affected at all, we are busy from day to day. We have no time to even you know, study for any courses. So this is really a time for us to, and also thanks to all the government policies that we have time right now, a time on our hand to take courses that could benefit us in the process. So it's really thankful for this. I would say that there's always a silver lining.
It is a silver lining. You know, I think Minister Ong Ye Kung would agree with me. For years we have been, I think we quite agree, although sometimes we don't, but we have been pushing for e-learning, blended of course, no point just convert everything, no need face-to-face and all that, blended, you know, for the students and for the teachers, as educators as well. And also I think there's plan like in 7 years time all of you will get one computer and all that, but actually COVID-19 has, you know, has actually pushed things, accelerate things, just
catapulted them.
Just put things so fast. You know, now I think you put forward the accelerated the plan, right?
Brought it forward by 7 years.
By 7 years.
7 years.
Okay.
But it's an amazing story, because we have been
home-based learning.
We've been planning for digital literacy learning for quite some time.
Learn for life.
So learn for life. But part of learn for life is digital literacy.
Yes.
And we started planning for this we planned for a long time ago, but 3 years ago we started developing the SLS, the Student Learning Space. When we launched it, it's actually a tool for teachers to teach better in class. That, you know, with everyone a tablet, I can flash materials on screen. You can look at it on screen. You can answer questions. You know, you can also post questions anonymously. You can have discussion.
It's quite good.
So it's actually quite good to just liven up the whole class. And many teachers say, with that tool in class, I hear every voice. Yeah, anonymity is put to good use. So we thought at some point every child should have a digital device to access SLS as well as blended learning. So we thought there is significant concerns.
Because what about those from the vulnerable families?
That's why you have to provide everyone with one at some point, and use their EduSave to purchase, for example. But there are concerns about, first, parents are concerned. Everyone with a device, will they use it to play games?
Sure.
What will they use it for? Second, not every teacher has mastered the skill of being able to teach classroom face-to-face as well as using digital materials. So when we estimated, I think we need about 7 years by 2028 before every single secondary school student can have a device, and we have every parent accept it and every teacher having that ambidextrous skill. But COVID-19 changed everything. Overnight, everyone forced to use HPL. We took SLS, which is a classroom tool, and use it for HPL. But as a result, within a month, everyone adapted to it. Some more comfortably than others.
Parents included.
And parents included. So as a result, I think we can now bring forward.
7 years ahead.
7 years ahead.
There's still some, you know, in the last mile, there's still some challenges, of course, but, you know, I think we will have to overcome it. So, for example, some of the families with not so much access, they may not have Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi at home, consistent Wi-Fi. So I think those things need to be fixed still. So not everything is rosy, but I think it's definitely the right direction to go. So I think
it's one of the things MPs can do, you know, really understanding who are the ones that need the device. Device school will give, or school will equip them with, but they may not have the Wi-Fi access.
Yeah, because the ability to also pay for the Wi-Fi will pose a challenge. I would say like digital as well as the financial literacy are synergistic. So in that sense itself, maybe you can share with us what are the plans out there for especially those children from the lower income family. So if we want to roll out e-learning, they need to have the device, they need to have dongle, they need to about a Wi-Fi, all this. Are there any things that we could help
So you
them?
see something like digital technology, it is a double-edged sword. If you have a digital technology and only the more affluent family can equip their children with it, and they have all the resources, and then children from poorer backgrounds, lower income backgrounds don't have, then the divide has worsened. Yeah. But on the other hand, if we can have a national program and make sure everyone is equipped, and so now everyone has the same digital resources. So it becomes a big leveler. So it's a double-edged sword. Of course, we must always choose the latter, and therefore we must have a national digital literacy program that advanced by 7 years.
I just want to ask a question. So you mentioned secondary school.
Yeah.
How about the primary? Do you see any challenges there of,
Primary
rolling out
school,
in primary school?
there are more challenges because the younger they are, I think the greater the concern about not knowing how to use digital resources and digital devices. You are literally left to your own devices, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is no devices.
I have kids at home. So I have 4 kids, but 3 are schooling.
okay.
One's in secondary school, so he's okay. But the other 2 in primary school, I spend more time being their IT
Consultant.
IT consultant, whatever problem
I would
they
say
have.
this, digital literacy is not about just online learning and devices.
Yep.
Digital literacy starts just like to be a good person, you start from learning good moral values. Same thing. Good digital literacy means you start by learning cyber wellness.
I see.
How to behave, how to protect yourself on the cyberspace. And that is the best thing to teach primary school students. Maybe upper primary we can explore whether they should have a device, but I think the priority for young children is lower primary, cyber wellness.
Yeah, so I think the job is not finished, in my opinion, that, we always say, as MPs before, we always feel like the last mile, so there's great policy, there's resource given, and then the middle level is great. But the final last mile is actually very important. So I think Rizal brought up a good point that actually you need supervision, especially for the younger one. And supervision, there are many ways, there not every parent can afford the time to go and supervise or have this nice environment where you can. So I think that's where Minister Indrani's Project Uplift, where she's leading to make sure that all these gaps are actually looked into. So I know that one of my friends, a young friend, David Ho, for example, he is ex-educator. He was asked to join from normal stream as well, then became a teacher, and he was asked to join this team in Project Uplift. That's really to look at the gaps, to see what's really happening at the final last mile, so that truly, while we have great policies, great resources, that our children really at the bottom line, they have the access, they really are at the level playing field with our other better resourced children.
Yeah. Have you read about our CDA adjustments? The adjustment to the child development account. I don't know if you read because there's been so much news. Have you heard?
No. So please update
so
us
that's
to
one
all
thing
our
we are.
netizens out there.
Another thing that we experienced during COVID-19, the children that are at home, lower income, we invite them. When we close schools, we never close for this group. They can come to school.
So they go to schools.
They
and
can
they
come
have
to
the
school,
So
and they will be
students can come.
supervised, but not all came. And for those who didn't come, they missed out on basic things like their meals because they used to take their meals in school, and we sponsored them with assistance. So no meals. So what do? So we work with some partners to say how about topping up their cards so that they can buy the meals themselves. But we use EasyLink cards, which maybe is a bit outdated for us. So if EasyLink card, you can't buy a lot of meals.
My CDC, the 5 CDC, we had this Grab wallet. But
you use Grab wallet.
advanced.
So that's the next thing we thought about. Not wallet, but how about crediting into their account? And we realized that
a lot of primary school
30% of them
accounts.
do not have accounts. So that was another problem. So what we are going to do now, for every baby is born, you set up a CDA account for them. For CDA, and government put in $3,000 of step-up.
Wow.
Step-up grant. That's something every Singaporean child born will get that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So what we are going to do is a safety net for this group of students. You set up a CDA account, and at the same time we set up a bank account for them, called the CSA, a Child Savings Account. And it will be equipped with e-payment, with digital ID, for example. And so as they grow up, this account stays with them. Yeah. So we have digital inclusivity as well as financial inclusivity. The two are actually very tightly linked.
I think one of the strategies were also to keep them in school after the formal school hours, so there's student care as well. And I think priority I hear is being given to children from families who actually are more challenged, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really useful.
So actually, many people actually don't realize this, but in terms of resourcing today, on a per child basis, a child from a more vulnerable households, they get a lot more resources compared to a child from, say, a very popular school.
Wow.
Actually, the resourcing is tilted in favor of those who need more help.
Well, that's really heartening to know,
Yeah.
because I was just chatting with Rizal, like, growing up at the Jalan Besar GRC, I was also a young candidate of the bursary. Like every year we'll get the bursary. Yeah, that would help those lower income families a lot. But it's also heartening to know that so many measures have been rolled out to help all these lower income families, as well as these kids who are from this vulnerable families.
It's the bursary, it's the meals, it's the
Yes.
after school programs.
You don't have to worry about where your meals are going to come from, the money it's going to come from. So all you need to do is just really go to school and just study, acquire the skills and knowledge.
Yes, but it's not a bed of roses. At the execution level,
Yeah.
that's where there are gaps. Sometimes we may have to call and push the children to come to school even. So it's not there. So I think it's a lot of hand holding.
We know this, the problem in school and the problems in families,
home.
there's a big overlap. Yeah.
So I do think that much as I always push government to do a lot of things as an MP, I also think that government cannot do it alone. So you really have to have the the community to come in as well. A lot of social service agencies are doing very good work, very deep work, and the families also, not just educating children, but also the families have to be part of this as well. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm excited about that, because if there's work to be done, then I think we have a role to play and to help, and that's
Much
really
to learn.
important.
Much to learn.
So I do think, it's really cliche to say it takes a village, it takes a kampong and all that, but it truly does.
Yes,
it truly
it
does.
So also back to Rizal, maybe you have walked the ground, being an educator, seeing all your students in schools. So there are things that you could identify, and maybe you can share with us what have changed, the challenges, and what have changed now.
Maybe I share about the polytechnic. So what have changed? Because I went to the poly. Certainly when I was back then, we had limited courses. We had either engineering, business, or sciences. There's no variety. But now there are multiple choices, diplomas available. Of course, some are really niche. I'll talk about that maybe later. But the idea is that there are really multiple courses available. But what's interesting is that now, getting into poly is not just a one route through O levels. There are multiple pathways for them to come in. So you have the early admission exercise, for example.
PFP is
the
very
PFP, which is
popular.
also something interesting. So maybe I'll talk about the PFP later. So, but the idea is that there are so many pathways that are available for our children to actually move up. I think this is important because we must identify different traits, right? And that's the whole idea of the direct admission exercise. Because when they come in for an interview, we don't look just at their results. In fact, we don't look at their results. We look at them and what they can offer, and whether their passion can be alive when they take that course.
That was started in 2016.
So it must be you.
That was the second thing I did after I brought in adult learning. So what Rizal mentioned is a new thing that we call EAE, Early Admission Exercise.
There's a lot of EAE, PFP, and all these acronyms.
But essentially the idea is this. We used to use academic results to decide everything, including admission to polytechnic.
Yes.
But polytechnic being something hands-on, applied, aptitude and passion matters, you see.
Agreed.
So we start off, I remember we say quite conservative. In 2016, we announced 10% of your admission will be based on aptitude. That means you cannot just look at the result. You must pass, you must meet a certain threshold so that you can at least keep up with the curriculum. But beyond that is showing your aptitude, your passion, and having portfolios to show, for example, demonstrated portfolios. Yeah. And then gradually we raised it to 12.5%, 15%, now it's about 20%. Yeah.
I think it's important because we give a multiple pathways. I think this is important for Singaporeans to understand that you're not stuck. If you think you can go in early to a poly and you know that's your passion, I think that's great. So that would be the second point I would raise when it comes to poly. I also like the idea now that you have internships that are much longer. I think I like that idea, but not only is longer where they can gain experience, but they can go overseas now. Of course now COVID-19 they can't, but the idea was that it was something we wanted to push for, going regional, getting their skills abroad, opening up their horizon. I think that's also important.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think we have too many courses or too few courses in a poly?
Okay, my honest opinion that it's good that we have a variety, but my issue is really there are too many.
Okay.
My reason is this. I mean, it's not that I'm saying close down the diplomas. I don't want to get into trouble. But the idea is this. I feel that because of the COVID-19 situation, certain courses may be more affected than the others. I wouldn't say what they are. But the idea is this. We know that the future is really digital. I was thinking whether we can equip everybody with a certain foundation. So I give you an example. I graduated with a diploma in electronics, and I went into physical education and sports science, and my PhD is in sports science. But when I did my PhD, I actually did programming, using the skills I had when I did my diploma in electronics.
Yeah.
So it's totally different, right? But the idea is this. What we need is that we need to give our students probably a strong foundation in skills in the emerging industry. So whatever happens in the future, whether I'm doing sports or I'm doing tourism, I can have the skills still because I have that digital background to push me when I finish my diploma. I think that's something I would want to see if it happens in the future.
If you get elected, make that your maiden speech.
Yes.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
very
in fact-
concrete, and it's an idea that we really believe in MOE as well. And you would have noticed in most polys, the number of courses have come down by almost 20%.
Yep.
You're still teaching it. It's just that it's not so niche, you see.
Yeah.
So that every child, every student, they have that foundation.
That's
You are
true.
more versatile.
Yes,
So
correct.
result-
More
I think the
resilient.
agility is important.
And more
because-
resilient, yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the
resilience
whole
and
point.
agility.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah,
very
we
good
used
point.
to, one thing we always argue in Parliament was also, we used to think that literacy is what we think numeracy, language, but really the whole new literacy is really digital literacy as well.
Yeah.
So I think that really has to be
Yeah.
part of that.
But you know, why do we have that thinking now? That we can afford to reduce the number of courses? Because of what Denise said earlier, that we have brought lifelong learning into MOE, into your institution.
Yes.
And once you say as an institution, poly or university, my role is to be a lifelong learning institution, then you realize that I don't have to front load so much stuff
True.
during the 3 years because
Correct.
I can equip you with a better foundation and you keep coming back to learn and deepen your expertise.
True.
So the calculus have changed.
Yes, and also from our Facebook comments itself, we have seen one of you have also commented on Rizal.
Oh.
Is that Rizal is such an inspiring
sing a song, right?
role. Singing a song would be Min Ong.
Oh, you should hear Rizal sing. He can
Yes,
sing 月亮
it's
代
like
表我的心.
Yeah, Wilson was saying that Rizal is such an inspiring individual for many because coming from your background from the poly and eventually getting the PhD as well, though your head is not damaged, but yes, a lot to share with us.
Sure.
So yes, we also see a lot of netizens giving us a lot of support and lots of hearts and a lot of thumbs up along the way. Thank you so much. I hope that whatever we share with you guys tonight has tremendously helped all of you. And back to the point about education and also aptitude is important. About digital literacy is also important.
I want to make a pitch.
Yes.
You see, we're talking about people who learn typically. I do want to make a pitch for people who, whether young or old, who learn differently. So they may have special needs, they may have different learning needs, they may have intellectual difficulties and so forth. And I do think that an inclusive education, so I want to make a pitch for inclusive education, not just including those who are from lower income background, but also those who are different, that they must be included, and not just exclusively and not just within the school years. If lifelong learning is for typical people, then it must be for those who learn differently as well. And therefore, I really feel strongly, I haven't got it achieved yet, but I really feel like for those who learn differently, especially those from the special schools. My son is not involved, he's already working, and so it's not for him, and I can handle him myself. But I really think that for all those who go through the special education system, that they cannot just finish their education and exit at 18 or 21. It's not enough. They need a longer runway, and they need also to learn for life. Out of all the 21,000 skills future courses that we have for the typical workforce in adult learning, not enough. and we need to do more together. Of course, I'm not saying everybody must do it except me. We need to jointly develop solutions so that they continue to learn and they will not be left behind. So I do want to make a pitch for inclusive education in that. And if I do get elected, if we do get elected, because if you don't get elected, I also don't get elected. About same theme.
It depends on you.
Yeah, I really would like to push for that, and I hope that the Minister of Education, okay, would,
duly noted.
Yes, okay, duly note this and give me a chance to co-develop. I never say things that say you're going to do only. We will do it together.
It takes a whole kampong to work together towards this journey.
How much time we have left?
We have about 10 more minutes to
10
go.
more minutes.
Yes.
Should we take some questions, or they can ask me questions?
Yes,
or,
and in fact, we already have a question from Cecilia Cole. So she said that, Min Ong, can you also include higher levels in primary 5 and 6 to also own a laptop or tablet, since home-based learning is here to stay?
Yes, I understand that sentiment. We will study this. But as I mentioned, because primary school, there are more concerns about misuse of digital devices. So let us study that, but it's certainly possible,
We also noted a comment from one of our netizens to Denise. She said that your special focus on the special education for their needs is very commendable. Thank you so much. Yes, we should always look into different facets, or rather different levels of the people, whether they are just school students or they are already adults who have worked, and also the special needs. 我们要就是每个阶层都要触及到。所以接下来这个好长的要念吗？Okay.
Too many courses in poly.
Too many courses in poly. I thought you reduced already, right?
We are reducing.
We are reducing.
Over time.
I think when we speak about education or education reforms, we cannot ignore the most important group of enablers as well, and those are the educators. So I think NIE, National Institute of Education, will also have quite a bit of work to do to ensure that our educators can also be aligned with the vision, and they will be future-proof as well. So I do think a lot of resources also need to be given to them, whether they are pre-service, during service, and so forth, to make sure that they are educators of the future, that they're equipped with, the ability to not just teach, but really to curate, to design, to coach as life coach as well, because you can have all the knowledge, but if you're a bad person, if you're a bad character, then I think that's not much of an education. So there was DPM Heng Swee Kiat's view about education. During his time, he brought in very highly, very strongly, I remember, because I was GPC chair also, character education. And he actually refused to let people announce their PSLE rankings, the schools, in the newspapers, in the media. So that was something I always remember. So DPM himself also believed in that. Yeah. So character education is a cliche people think is something fluffy, but it is so important that, CI, community work, for example, is part of everyday living. You clean up, I think it was during Chimeng's time, Minister Chimeng, you clean up, for yourself in a school. You learn to clean your classrooms and all that. So to me, also this thing about character education is extremely important as well. You can have very smart people who have a lot of paper qualification, but nobody wants to follow them because they are lousy characters or not good leaders.
I think we grew up needing to clean our own classrooms. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's
now
like
there's wiped down.
Roster.
Now there's wiped down. So DPM's vision was every school a good school.
Good school.
Yeah.
I just noticed there are some question there and whether that's achievable.
Let's take on some questions.
Yeah.
Maybe
So,
we just
I like to share this story, where I met my previous residents, father and a child. The father was complaining away that he wanted the child to go into a certain school, a good school, but instead ended up in another primary school and really not quite happy. So after the father feedback to me, I asked the child, "Are you happy in your school?" He said, "Yes." I say, "You got good teachers?" He said, "Yes." I say, "You got good friends?" He said, "Yes." "Do you like your CCA?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "Is your school a good school? It's a neighborhood school?" He said, "Yes." So I said, "There you are. Your school is a good school," because the child enjoyed it. And the child later, at the end of the event, came to me and said, "Uncle Minister."
Uncle
Minister.
Wow.
Uncle Minister, he's a kid.
I'll call it Uncle Minister.
Yeah. He said, "I'm really happy. Nobody has ever told me that my school is a good school." So I think for us to say every school a good school, it does not mean that every school must be the same, must be that same popular school. Every school a good school means every school should be different. because our children are different.
Agreed.
And there will be a school that suit them the best, and often the best school is the one nearest to your house, and you can sleep a bit longer. It may well be.
A bit later
It may well be. Yes.
to wake up. Just to add on to your example, it's like sometimes I feel that every school is a good school and every student is a good student. There is no student that is stupid or who cannot study, because everyone deserves an education, everyone is smart enough. It's just that, sometimes what we call that the enlightenment will come to them slightly later. It also takes an educator to uncover that part of them. So like coming from an example from mine was like, in our time when we were doing like tuition, I gave a tuition to this student. She was normal student, so she was not from the express class. So she was normal technical student. So then she was like, oh, normal technical student, I think we are condemned, we have no future. So you realize that you have to do this character building in this student. So when I teach a subject, when I teach her, it's not just about, oh, you should sort of solve this equation this way. It's also to build up her confidence in the subjects. So after that, after 1 year, she went from normal technical, she went to normal class. So she's like, I'm very excited. She comes to me, oh, Miss Lin, I finally get to the normal class. I was top 3 in my class. So you can see this change in her, this confidence in her. So 1 year later, and she went to express class. So, this change in this person, sometimes it's all about, telling our education that every student has the ability to rise above. And also every school is a good school, even though it's a neighborhood school.
Maybe I can share a bit on the enlightenment part. So for me, I guess I'm enlightened pretty late, because I got my degree only at the age of 31. But what happened in between was that I was actually a teacher first. That means I was already working, and I wanted to improve my pedagogical skills, and just want to be a better teacher. And that's how I eventually did a degree and got better, and it actually pushed me further. So the idea is this: maybe what we need to do is to actually provide proper pathways for them to develop their skills, because from that skills becomes that interest and becomes that switching point, that wants to push them further. And I always tell my students, my diploma graduates, you don't have to do a degree straight away. You don't have to. It's the skills that are important, because you really don't know whether when you graduate that's really what you like to do. Because some of them change their minds halfway and all that. But the idea is that when they really get into something and we give them the opportunity, I think that will be a better, sustainable runway for everyone. And that's where.
But for that to work again, they must understand that if I work and I accumulate experience and I get good testimony from my employer, I can use that to apply for university.
Yes.
And it strengthens my application.
Correct.
That means I can get to become a graduate at the age of 30.
And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Which also means, again, quite important in this whole education reform is admission reform. That again, going back to like EAE, university also have to do the same. Don't just admit purely based on academic results, but also experience, portfolio, skills.
That's true.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us this evening, sharing so much about education. And of course, we do know that education is a lifelong journey. We have so much to discuss. And of course, we hope to maybe share with you in some other episodes. But thank you for joining us in this conversation together. And also for all our netizens who are watching us live, thank you for watching us and also chiming in with all your questions. You've been watching Straight Talk with PAP. My name is Charlene. We'll see you tomorrow for yet another episode. Good night, and thank you so much to all our speakers, our minister, as well as candidates. Give them lots of thumbs up.